This changes everything. Episode 8 doesn't just continue the story, it breaks it. The bond that once made them unstoppable is now the very thing tearing them apart. And what started as small doubts has turned into something far more dangerous, a war that neither of them can walk away from. The story picks up right where the tension left off, but this time, something feels different. There's a cold silence between the brothers that wasn't there before. Earlier, even in their worst disagreements, there was still some level of trust holding them together. Now, that trust is gone. Every word feels like a test. Every look carries suspicion. It's clear that both of them are no longer thinking as family. They are thinking as rivals. The situation around them isn't helping either. Pressure from outside forces is growing stronger, and both brothers are being pushed to make decisions quickly without fully understanding the consequences. One of them believes that control is the only way to protect what they have built. The other believes that control is exactly what will destroy everything. This difference in thinking is no longer something they can ignore. As the episode moves forward, we see how their past dissatisfaction slowly built this moment. It didn't start here. It started much earlier, with small secrets, hidden actions, and choices they never talked about openly. One brother kept things hidden thinking it was for the greater good, while the other started noticing the gaps, the lies, the things that didn't add up. What once looked like smart leadership now starts to feel like manipulation. The more one tries to explain, the less the other believes him. And that's where the real damage begins. Not in the actions, but in the loss of belief. Because once trust is broken at this level, it doesn't come back easily. And both of them know it. There's also a growing sense that they are no longer alone in this conflict. People around them are watching closely, waiting to see who gains the upper hand. Some are quietly choosing sides, while others are trying to benefit from the chaos. This makes every move even more risky. A simple decision is no longer just a decision. It becomes a statement, a signal of power. And both brothers understand that if they show even a moment of weakness, it could cost them everything. So instead of stepping back, they move forward, harder, faster, and more aggressively than before. By the time we reach the end of this part, one thing becomes very clear. This is no longer about fixing the relationship. It's about winning. The emotional connection that once defined them is fading, replaced by strategy, anger, and pride. Neither of them is ready to admit they're wrong, and neither is willing to step aside. The line has been crossed, even if no one says it out loud. What makes this even more intense is the feeling that something bigger is coming. This is just the beginning. The real clash hasn't even happened yet, but the setup is complete. Every piece is moving into place, and when it finally explodes, it won't just affect them. It will affect everyone around them. The tension between the two brothers did not appear overnight. It was built slowly, layer by layer, through choices that seemed small at first but carried heavy weight later. In the early days, they worked like a perfect team. One handled strategy, thinking ahead of every possible danger, while the other focused on action, making sure things actually got done on the ground. Together, they were strong, almost untouchable. But power changes people, and even more than that, pressure exposes what people try to hide inside. As their influence grew, so did the expectations around them. Every decision they made started affecting more lives, more groups, and more enemies. The world around them stopped treating them like partners and started treating them like leaders who might not agree for long. That outside pressure slowly started entering their personal space. At first, it was just disagreements over methods. One brother believed in strict control, thinking that if everything stayed under tight command, nothing could go wrong. The other believed in balance, thinking that too much control would eventually break the system from inside. These were not loud fights in the beginning. They were quiet discussions that ended with silence, not agreement. Over time, silence turned into distance. Distance turned into doubt, and doubt slowly turned into suspicion. Small actions started to look suspicious, even when they were not meant to be. A delay in communication felt like hiding something, a private meeting felt like secret planning, even silence itself started to feel like a message. Neither of them realized that they were no longer seeing each other clearly. They were now seeing each other through fear and assumption. not trust. There were also moments from the past that started coming back into the present. Decisions that were once accepted without question were now being re-examined. One brother began to remember times when he felt left out of important conversations. The other started recalling moments where his advice was ignored, only to see later that his concerns were valid. These memories did not stay neutral. They became fuel. Each one added weight to the idea that maybe they were no longer on the same path. Instead of talking about these feelings openly, they kept them inside, allowing them to grow in the dark. Outside forces made everything worse. People around them were not blind to the growing distance. Some advisors and allies began to quietly influence each side, pushing ideas that matched their own interests. One group encouraged stronger control, telling one brother that hesitation would lead to loss of power. Another group encouraged independence, telling the other brother that too much control would turn them into something they never wanted to become. These voices did not create the conflict, but they sharpened it. They turned confusion into direction and doubt into action. What made the situation even more unstable was the lack of honest conversation between the brothers. Every time they tried to speak, something held them back. Pride, fear of being misunderstood, fear of showing weakness. So instead of clearing the air, they started choosing distance. Meetings became shorter, communication became formal, and emotional connection started disappearing completely. It was no longer a relationship being repaired or damaged slowly. It was a relationship being left unattended, like something both assumed would fix itself. By the time they realized how far things had gone, the gap between them was already wide. And in that gap, something else had taken root. The belief that the other might already be an opponent rather than family. That single thought changed everything. Because once a person starts seeing family as a rival, every action becomes a defense, and every silence becomes a threat. The moment everything finally breaks does not come with warning. It comes quietly, almost normally, as if nothing major is about to happen. But beneath that calm surface, the damage that has been building for so long finally reaches its limit. One decision, one truth coming out at the wrong time becomes enough to push both brothers past the point of no return. It begins with a revelation that was never supposed to be exposed so soon. Something that one brother believed was necessary to protect the bigger picture is suddenly uncovered. It is not just the action itself that hurts the other brother, but the fact that it was hidden. The feeling of being kept in the dark hits harder than the truth itself. In that moment, everything that was already suspected becomes confirmed in his mind. Trust does not just crack here, it collapses. The brother who kept the secret tries to explain himself, but the timing is wrong. Words that could have made sense earlier now sound like excuses. Every sentence he speaks only adds more weight to the damage already done. The other brother listens, but not to understand. He listens to confirm what he already feels. And what he feels is betrayal. Not a small misunderstanding, but a deep betrayal that touches everything they built together. The environment around them reacts instantly. People nearby sense the shift in energy even before anything physical happens. There is a change in tone, in posture, in silence. Allies who were once confident now become careful. No one wants to step between them because it is clear this is no longer a normal disagreement. This is something that has been waiting to explode for a long time. As emotions rise, so does the pressure of all past memories. Every unresolved argument, every ignored warning, every moment of doubt comes rushing back at once. The brother who feels betrayed starts speaking not just about this single incident, but about everything that led to it. Years of hidden frustration come out in a controlled but intense way. He is no longer speaking to understand. He is speaking to confront everything he has held inside. The other brother, instead of stepping back, stands his ground. He believes his actions were justified. In his mind, he is not the enemy. He is the one who made the hard choices no one else wanted to make. But what he does not realize is that justification does not matter anymore. The emotional damage has already taken over logic. Even truth is no longer enough to fix what is breaking in real time. This is the exact point where their bond shifts completely. They are no longer discussing, they are no longer negotiating. They are standing on opposite sides of the same story, each believing they are right, each believing the other has changed. The idea of compromise disappears because neither side wants to be the one who steps back first. Pride now becomes stronger than connection. What makes this moment even more dangerous is how quickly others start reacting to it. The silence between the brothers is not empty anymore. It is charged. Every person watching understands that a line has been crossed. Once that line is crossed, returning to normal is no longer an option. Even if words are spoken later, they will never carry the same meaning again. By the end of this breaking point, something irreversible has already happened. The truth is no longer the main issue. The real issue is perception. Each brother now sees the other not as someone who made a mistake, but as someone who chose a side. And once that belief forms, every future action will be judged through that lens. This is where the war does not start with weapons. It starts inside their minds. What follows after the breaking point is no longer confusion or argument. It becomes structure forming inside chaos. Both brothers now understand, even if they do not admit it, that things cannot go back to how they were. The emotional damage has already settled into something deeper. It is no longer about what was done. It is about what each of them now believes the other is capable of doing next. The first clear sign of conflict begins in how they separate themselves without officially announcing it. There is no formal split, no public declaration, but the shift is obvious. Decisions that used to be made together are now handled separately. Messages are no longer shared openly. Meetings that once included both are now attended by different sides. This silent division creates confusion among everyone around them, but no one dares to ask directly because the answer is already visible in their behavior. One brother begins to tighten control over his side of influence. He focuses on discipline, structure, and strict order. In his mind, chaos is the real enemy, and chaos only grows when leadership is weak or uncertain. So he doubles down on authority, making faster decisions, cutting out delays, and removing anyone who questions his direction too much. His followers see this as strength, but beneath it is urgency. The urgency of someone who feels time is slipping away. The other brother takes a different path. Instead of tightening control, he starts building distance from it. He believes trust has been broken not just between them, but in the system itself. So he focuses on rebuilding loyalty through understanding, communication, and shared responsibility. He speaks more openly with his supporters, trying to make them see the bigger picture rather than just following orders. To him, force without trust is temporary, and what they are facing now requires long-term stability, not short-term control. These two approaches begin to clash indirectly before they even meet face-to-face again. Each decision made by one side is seen by the other as a challenge or rejection. A move meant for protection is interpreted as aggression. A step taken for stability is seen as manipulation. The gap between perception and intention grows wider with every passing moment. When they finally come close enough for direct confrontation again, the atmosphere is already heavy. There is no warmth left in their interaction. Even standing in the same space feels uncomfortable, like two forces pulling in opposite directions. The conversation starts with restraint, but it does not stay there for long. Words are carefully chosen at first, but emotion slowly breaks through control. One brother questions the direction being taken, pointing out risks that cannot be ignored. The other responds not with softness, but with certainty, defending every action as necessary. Neither of them is fully listening anymore. They are waiting for their turn to justify themselves, not to understand the other side. This is not dialogue. It is defense. As the exchange continues, the emotional restraint finally begins to weaken. Old frustration returns, not as memory, but as pressure in real time. Each sentence starts carrying more weight, less patience, and more edge. The difference between disagreement and confrontation disappears completely. At this stage, even silence between words feels like tension building towards something unavoidable. Around them, their supporters begin to react. Some step back, unsure of where loyalty should now lie. Others start quietly aligning themselves with the side they believe will win. This shift is not loud, but it is constant. Power is no longer just about leadership. It is about who can maintain control over uncertainty. By the end of this confrontation phase, Both brothers realize something important without saying it directly. They are no longer operating as partners in any sense. Every action now carries strategic meaning. Every word is a signal, and every silence is a warning. What used to be a shared mission has now turned into two competing visions, moving on a collision path where neither is willing to yield even a single step.